Today, I want to talk to you just a little bit about why I think our brains are wired toward minimalism. For those of you who are new here, I keep forgetting to do this at the beginning of my videos, so I'll tell you now, my name is Tim, and I am a newly retired educator. After spending 23 years in education and some other stuff before that, I am now retired living in Chattanooga. And this channel is about all kinds of stuff. A hobby that I have is that I am an amateur photographer. And as an amateur photographer, I try my hand at a lot of different kinds of photos. So I take waterfall photography and other landscape photography. I do some urban photography, not what you would call street photography, but, downtown, those kinds of things. Done a little macro, anyway, irrelevant. If you want to see my photography channel, there is a link in the description, timchilders.bio.link, that has access to all of my social media sites. You're welcome to follow me anywhere you want. But in photography particularly, there are images that immediately denote calm. And those images are typically black and white, or what we might call monochrome. They are typically square format, and they are typically minimalist in style. So let me explain those things. When you're looking at a picture, a 4x5 picture, you're looking at something that's typically, an Instagram style shot, whether it's 4x5 or 5x4, doesn't really matter, and it's in color. There are a lot of things going on in that image, but typically your eye is drawn into what they call leading lines. So you might be looking down a street, or you might be looking around a path that circles through a field to draw you to the subject. We typically read those images from left to right if we are in the United States, particularly because that's how we learn to read. If you're in another culture, you might read them from right to left. And so we scan the image. There are things like rule of third and composition on putting the horizon line at the top or the bottom of the third, and whether the face is in a place where the thirds intersect. All those things matter in making a picture pleasing to the eye. But in black and white, minimalist, square format, there often may not be a leading line. And we don't read those images from left to right. We're left to read those images sort of in a circle, a never-ending pattern with no beginning and no end. And it can be almost hypnotic, if you want to use that word. By eliminating the color, we eliminate all the distractions, the bright hues of the fabric, or, the bright red or yellow or blue or green of an umbrella, or street signs and all those kinds of things. We are left with something that allows our eye to do this pattern without obstruction. And when we are taking the image as a minimalist photo, we are leaving a lot of empty space, what they call negative space. And so you will see either a lot of dark or a lot of light, a lot of shadow or a lot of sunlight, and a very, very small amount of subject. These images bring more calm to our brain when we look at them than any other kind of image there is that's ever been made, probably ever will be made, is a square format, black and white, monochrome, minimalist image. And so when people talk about minimalism as a lifestyle, they're incorporating these same kinds of things into their life. It's one of the reasons why in this particular studio room that I have, my walls are gray and most of my shirts are either blue and gray. I'm getting down to a minimalist color palette, so it's not distracting. And then when I do the final edits, I desaturate it just a little bit so that even the orange of my face or peach or flesh or whatever you want to call it doesn't distract from this color palette that's all around me. The pictures behind me are in black and white. The only time you will see me worried about the color is when I flip the room and I'm looking back at the picture from St. Peter's Basilica with an orange light in front of it. That little splash of color is about all I ever do. Because the video itself, being desaturated, being very simple color palette, evokes a calmer mood. It's one of the reasons why I don't talk 90 miles an hour. I talk slower. I do jump the video sometimes because I say a lot of ums and uhs and buts and so's and ands. And I try to cut a lot of those things out. And it leaves my videos just a little choppy, and I'm okay with that. I live with that. The other part of it is that in these minimalist square format monochrome images, there is a lot of negative space. And it's one of the reasons why when you watch somebody's channel on minimalism on YouTube, you will see that they have very little furniture and very little on their walls, not much on horizontal surfaces, because they have created this negative space in their environment that leads to a sense of calm. It works the same way when you take a walk through an art museum. A lot of times in the art museum, the walls and the floors and the benches that they have they're all very limited as a color palette. They want the art to stand out. But in addition, the rooms are large and the artwork is spread out. Not so much because they're wanting to have space for 5,000 people, but because they want you to feel comfortable and relaxed to enjoy the art. These are very simple steps people take in life to bring about a sense of calm, either for themselves or for others. Because we are naturally drawn to this idea of negative space, a very monochromistic, if that's a word, color palette, very simple, very subdued, because there's just something about it that in our spirit says, I can relax. So when you look around your house, now you're going to see in my house when I do little brief tours here and there, I've still got areas where, like I've got the mantelpiece, it still has several pieces across the mantelpiece. I need to work on that. It's still a bit much for me. But when you look at the walls, I've not covered all the walls in artwork, and I am trying to make for myself all of the artwork in my house, pictures I have taken. Minimal numbers of things on any given surface, not only because it's easy to clean, because it is, but because that negative space gives our soul, our spirit, room to breathe. And so I encourage you, if you go on Instagram, do a search for black and white. Find some photographers there who are specializing in square format, minimalist views. I'll put a link to a couple of my favorites in the description below. And then take a look around your house and see, is this really giving me a sense of peace? Or do I need to make a change somewhere? Sometimes the change can be as simple as a coat of paint. You don't have to replace all the furniture. It could be as simple as removing one picture from the wall that just gives you a little more room to relax. We'll see you next time.